Hello everyone, my name is Muhammad Irfan and this video is brought to you by Mavio. Follow us on social media, let's connect and build together. Today we will be focusing on ethical frameworks in clinical data science. We will be navigating through the regulatory, ethical and legal approval process for our clinical research or the models that we've developed. So today we will be transitioning from the technical evaluation of the models, for example, if our model works or not, to the ethical and legal process of if the model is ethical and it is legal or not. So the shift is from the technical performance metrics like F1 score or areas under the curve, etc., to how our model is usable or the clinical utility of our model and patient protection. This may include privacy and not discriminating against certain groups, etc. So let's get into that. First of all, the IRB for fundamentals. IRB stands for Institutional Review Board. It is an administrative body established to protect the rights and welfare of human research subjects. And this is for when the subjects of our research are humans, and when humans are recruited to participate in a research activities. The primary role of this IRB is to minimize risk to the human participants and to analyze and assess the benefit risk ratio to ensure benefits outweigh potential harms to privacy, etc. And it is also for regulatory oversight to ensure compliance with federal and local laws. So these are the IRB fundamentals. And then the ethics of EHR data. So the data that we use for research purposes, it's called secondary data use, which is basically utilizing electronic health record data, which was not generated or not collected for our research goals, but instead it was originally collected for clinical care. And because of that, an ethical dilemma appears because patients often do not know their data is used for AI training. So research must ensure the minimal risk to produce to proceed without explicit per study consent. So because we are living in an AI era and we need lots and lots of data, we cannot take consent from each and every patient. So we must make sure that the risk is minimal and the data is properly de-identified. And this is the workflow of the research process. First we define the research problem, then review the data. That could include availability, the quality of the data, if the data is complete or not, and if it is meaningful. Then the relationship, conceptualizing the relationships, etc., and the hypothesis formulation and reviewing the literature. And this is not just a procedural process, but we go from one step to another times and again. And the next we have the IRB simulation. So these three things that we have to give to the IRB, we have to basically define our protocol title. First, we clearly define the scope or project. There should be clarity in it. And for example, if we are a model for predictive modeling of sepsis, so there shouldn't be no ambiguity of what we are doing in our research or model. Then we have to clearly define and specify our data sources. Where does our data set come from? How did we collect our data? Then the justification of our research or project, that why is it necessary and why not use the traditional methods that are still in place. So this is the IRB simulation. Next we have informed consent in AI, because today we are living in an era of AI and massive amount of data is being used for training these models. Individual consent is very rare and almost impossible to get consent from every patient. So we have some challenges that getting patient permission for future currently undefined AI research applications. Even if we get individual consent, the problem is that we may use that data for future research purposes. So that is not clearly defined in the consent that the patients are giving. So IRBs may allow research without direct sign off if these three things hold true. For example, if the study is retrospective EHR study, which means that if we are studying the trends and long-term patient history and the past data, we are looking into the past data, so we can IRB may allow us to do that research without a direct sign off. The second thing is if the data is in de-identified. So if we have followed the proper de-identification protocols, for example, the HIPAA, safe harbor, etc., and we have made sure that the data cannot be traced back to the patient, we can use it for research purposes. And then the next, finally, we have research which cannot be done otherwise. So IRB may allow the research if it cannot be done otherwise without that data. The next we have vulnerable populations. So we have to clarify specific ethical layers when the data involves some specific vulnerable populations like children and minors, pregnant women and fetuses, or prisoners, or cognitively impaired individuals. So more layers, more ethical layers are mandatory for these populations because obviously they're vulnerable. Then the data minimization step. So the need to know, we have to follow the need to know principle. We must only extract the specific variables and the clinical markers that are required for our model to function. We should avoid over collection. For example, we do not need date of births, home addresses, social security numbers, etc. So we must avoid over collection of data and practice minimization. For example, the clinical markers that are important for our outcomes of for training of our models, like age at admission, digit zip code, decades, years instead of dates. So we must make sure to collect the minimum data that is required for our model to function. Next, we have privacy protection methods. So there are different methods that are used to protect the privacy of patients so that the data cannot be traced back into those patients and individuals. There are different methods that we use. First is the HIPAA safe harbor, which is basically 18 HIPAA defined identifiers, and we have to strip those identifiers from our data, which makes sure that the data will not be traced into those individual back. So we remove those specific identifiers in the HIPAA safe harbor. Then there is the expert determination, which is basically a mathematical model or statistical validation in which we prove the re-identification risk is very small statistically or mathematically. And the third is anonymization, which is an irreversible process. And in this, we make sure that there is no technical path to re-identify the subject or the individual whose data is being taken. Next is the risk benefit analysis of our project. So, ethical decision making involves ensuring that the clinical utility or the value of our model or project or research is significantly higher than that of the false positive cost and privacy risks. So, the false positive cost is basically when our model identifies something to be true when it is not true, and it causes alert fatigues in these EHR systems. So we must make sure that our clinical utility exceeds significantly than the false positive cost and also the privacy risk of the individuals whose data is being collected. Then we have the fairness audits, and the purpose of these audits is to prevent bias against a certain group or demographic. And so, auditing risk prediction pipelines for fairness across sensitive attributes. These attributes may include demographics and equity. So, we must ensure that our model does not perform worse for marginalized groups, and the metrics that we use for in these fairness audits could be disparate impact or equalized odds, which are basically we take the same data from two different groups with the same clinical markers and same everything, and then we test our models on those two data points, and we have to make sure that our model gives the same answer for both both of those individuals without discriminating against a certain group. So if our model does not answer the same for those two individuals, then it means that there is some bias in our model against a certain group. Then we have the transparency in our research. So we have to make sure from before we do any research or we train any model, we have to publicly file the research plan or study plan use on this open science framework OSA pre-registration. And this basically what this does is it prevents the p-hacking, and it also prevents hypothesizing after results are known. So it is critical for it is critical in research so that people who are doing the research, they cannot change the results of they cannot change their hypothesis or change their study goals after the research is done in or after the data is collected. So there should be a clear transparency in our research. So after looking into all these steps, this should be our practical IRB workflow. First of all, we set up a GitHub repository for reproducibility and data versioning. So this is the first step. And then we pre-register our study plan for public transparency on OSF. And after that, we submit our protocol, our data source, and our minimization plan to IRB. And after our model is trained and our research is completed, we do a fairness audit and we run bias checks and we judge our model and our research on those fairness metrics before our final deployment into production. So the defensible protocol checklist include that does the protocol have a clear pickots frame? So this is the OSF pre-registration. Then is there a plan for HIPAA safe harbor de-identification? Is the data clearly de-identified, and have we made sure that the data cannot be traced back into the individuals? And then has a fairness audit been planned for the final model? So is our model non-discriminatory against a marginalized group or against a certain demographic? And then is there a GitHub repository scaffolded for reproducibility? So this is our checklist and we must follow this. And that's it for the ethics and our clinical data science for models in research.